Hey guys, how y'all doing? Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to another Capturing Classics reading vlog. So in the last episode in this series that I did, I'd read Peter Pan and compared it to the Disney film and talked about my feelings about all of that. But today I'm reading another children's classic, and this one was actually a favorite book of mine growing up. So I'm kind of nervous to reread it because I haven't read it in a really long time, but as you can already tell from the title, I'm going to be reading The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum. Here's the story with me and The Wizard of Oz, just for like a bit of backstory on my experience with the book. So this was actually my original copy of The Wizard of Oz. This was actually my brother's copy, so he was given to this as a gift by his teacher, and then he just gave it to me because he didn't want it, and I fell in love. Like, I was obsessed with this book. I read it countless times. Like, I don't even know how many times I read this book growing up, and I was just obsessed with it. Like, I loved this book. I read it all the time. I was obsessed with it. I was Dorothy for Halloween when I was 9. Like, I loved The Wizard of Oz. This is the Barnes & Noble Classics edition, and I'm obsessed with it, so I'm going to be reading this edition for this vlog so that I can see these illustrations because they're different from the ones in this one. And I'm very excited, but like I said, also very, very nervous because just right off the bat, I know that this one is a lot slower than the movie, because I know I still love the movie. I've seen that a million times, but this one's a lot slower going. There's a lot more build up before they actually get to the Emerald City, whereas in the movie it's pretty quick. So I'm kind of nervous that it's just going to be slow and it's going to kind of ruin it for me, but I'm hoping not. Like, I'm hoping that I can just take it for what it is and enjoy the longer journey. At least I hope. So the plan is I'm going to start reading it today. It's Thursday right now, and then I'll finish it tomorrow, unless I like get sucked in and I finish it today, but I also have other things that I need to do. So I'm hoping to finish it tomorrow, and then over the weekend I will watch the movie and I will compare. I'm trying to do a better job this time around than what I did for Peter Pan, because I didn't take notes at all during either reading the book or watching the movie, and I want to do a better comparison this time around for The Wizard of Oz, especially since I have a closer relationship with this book to begin with. But if you haven't seen my Peter Pan vlog, then definitely check that up above in the cards. I'd really love for you guys to go check that one out. I worked really hard on it and I'm proud of it. If you haven't seen that one, then let me just kind of explain to you what this series is all about. So basically choose a classic. Right now I'm primarily focusing on children's classics that I've already read before, them kind of rereading and experiencing, and I read the book and I let you know what I think about it, all my thoughts, does it still hold up now, all the things like that. And then I also watch an adaptation of it, probably like the most popular adaptations. For Peter Pan, I watched the Disney film. For this one, I'm going to watch the movie with Judy Garland in it. So excited. I haven't watched that movie in so long, and so on and so forth. And then I will compare the two, talk about how I feel about them separately, talk about how I feel about them as an adaptation and whatnot, as a collective. And then also throughout these videos I share fun facts in regards to the book or the author, which I'm very excited about because I found some really fun facts for this book. But I'm so excited to start this book, so I'm going to sit outside actually for a while and read it because our weather is actually really, really nice and I'm so happy about it. I think that we should just jump right in and get started. Obviously there's going to be spoilers for The Wizard of Oz throughout this entire video, so if you've not read or seen The Wizard of Oz before, maybe don't watch this video, maybe save it and come back once you've actually read or seen the movie. Unless you don't care about spoilers, then please stick around. But I am so excited to talk about this book with you guys.
You dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you why
Okay, so the first thing that I'm noticing, I'm only 9 pages in, but the first thing that I'm noticing is that the beginning of this book is a lot faster paced than at least what I remember the rest of the book being, especially in comparison to what I know of the movie, where in the movie we get like a good look at Dorothy and Aunt Em and Uncle Henry, and we get to see their life in Kansas and how things work, and then there's like conflict between I can't remember what her name is, but the lady who doesn't like Toto, and there's like a conflict there, and then the cyclone happens. But this, we get like a slight introduction into Aunt Em. We just like get to know their names, what their house is like, and then all of a sudden the cyclone is happening. And I don't mind that, but I kind of wish we did get a little bit more, I guess, insight into Dorothy's life before she gets like uplifted into Oz, but whatever. She sprang from her bed and with Toto at her heels ran and opened the door. The little girl gave a cry of amazement and looked about her, her eyes growing bigger and bigger at the wonderful sights she saw. The cyclone had set the house down very gently for a cyclone, in the midst of a country of marvelous beauty. There were lovely patches of green sward all around her with stately trees, bearing rich and luscious fruits. Banks of gorgeous flowers were on every hand, and birds with rare and brilliant plumage sang and fluttered in the trees and bushes. A little way off was a small brook rushing and sparkling along between the green banks, and murmuring in a voice very grateful to a little girl who had lived so long in the dry, gray prairies. Okay, so I'm only 13 pages into the book, but we just got to a point where I had a fun fact for you, so I thought I would just kind of mention that. So, fun fact number 1 for The Wizard of Oz is Dorothy's shoes were actually silver in the book and not a ruby red. When her house lands on the Wicked Witch of the East, and Glinda gives her the shoes, although Glinda doesn't give her the shoes in this one, but when she gets the shoes, they are silver in the book and not ruby red. Yeah, so the reason why the color was changed for the movie, it says the color was changed for the 1939 movie starring Judy Garland because the filmmakers thought that ruby red looked better in Technicolor, which totally makes sense to me, and I definitely like that they made that change. That's just like a little fun fact for you if you didn't know, if you've never read The Wizard of Oz. The shoes were silver, not ruby red. Okay, so we've met the Scarecrow and they've just sat down to eat before they continue their journey, and Dorothy offers him some food, and he says that he's never hungry, and he says, "It is lucky that I am not, for my mouth is only painted, and if I should cut a hole in it so I could eat, the straw I am stuffed with would come out, and that would spoil the shape of my head." Then how are you talking? Logic. I love how that's what I choose to complain about, not the fact that the Scarecrow is just talking in general, but it's fine. Hey guys, so it is now past 3 o'clock. I came back inside a while ago and I made lunch, and then I was just watching YouTube and doing the dishes. I'm kind of just taking a break from The Wizard of Oz, but I wanted to sit down and give you guys a little bit of an update. So I am just over halfway through the book. I'm on page 119, I think. I'm on chapter 12. So I just kind of want to sit down and give you guys my overall thoughts so far of the book since we are over halfway through. And I did tell you guys that I was thinking of finishing the book tomorrow, but I think I'm going to finish it today. I'm actually really enjoying this book overall, which I'm really happy about, because like I was telling you guys at the beginning of this vlog, I was really worried that I would sit down and reread this and not love it, because this was such a huge part of my childhood and one of my favorite books. So I was really worried that I wasn't still gonna love it, but I'm really enjoying it. Like I can definitely see like faults in it, and like kind of like things that are kind of ridiculous, like how the Scarecrow can talk but he can't open his mouth to eat because his straw will fall out. How like the Tin Man was a man, and then the axe was bewitched to cut off parts of his body, and then he'd get replaced with tin, so that's how he became the Tin Man. Like it doesn't make sense, but that's like the kind of joy and whimsy of children's books and children's classics, is they don't make sense and they're just magical and fun, and so I'm just kind of taking it for what it is, and I'm really enjoying it. And it actually isn't as slow paced as I thought it was, which is really good. I mean, it does take them multiple days to get to Oz, whereas in the movie it's all within the same day, and they are facing a lot more obstacles in this book to get to the Emerald City as opposed to in the movie, where the only real threat that they have is the Wicked Witch trying to stop them along the way. And really, I think the only threat that is the same going from the house in like the Munchkin land to going to the Emerald City, the only real thing that they run into is they run into the Wicked Witch once or twice. There's like those like talking, attacking trees, and then there's Poppy Field. So those are the only like dangers. But in this one there's a lot more. They run across like, they have to get across this like a lake or something, like a field. So they have to like use what they have to try to like overcome it. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. But I'm finding that it's not as slow paced as I thought it was, which I'm really really enjoying. Yeah, so I've just gone past the part where they've all spoken to the Wizard of Oz, and they've been told by him that he won't grant any of their wishes or give them anything that they want until they go kill the Wicked Witch and bring him back proof that she is dead. So he's like, you can't get anything from me without giving me something in return. And so that is where I'm now. They have all just agreed with each other that they're gonna go at least try to kill the witch, even though they all don't want to and they don't think that they're capable of it. So that's where we are right now in the story. But it's time for another Wizard of Oz fun fact. So this one relates to Oz. So L. Frank Baum got the name Oz from his filing cabinet. So apparently L. Frank Baum was having a lot of trouble at first coming up with a name for this magical land that Dorothy visits. But then one day he was looking at his filing cabinet in his study and he noticed the letters in the different drawers. So it was marked A to G, H to N, and then O to Z. So then he took OZ from the O to Z and made Oz. And I honestly really like that. I think sometimes, especially with like fantasy-esque stories, like I would imagine like that's something that I can never do. And so I could imagine that it would be really, really hard to come up with like different names for new lands and new languages and whatnot. So I think that was really like, not innovative, but like creative. Like he just like looked at his surroundings and came up with it from things that he saw. So I thought that that was a pretty fun fact and something that I didn't know until I was doing research to find fun facts for this video. So I thought that was really, really fun and interesting. So I'm gonna sit down and continue reading. I'm having a really good time reading this book. I found myself laughing and smiling and it's just really cute, and so I'm really excited to continue reading and see them finally meet the Wicked Witch of the West.
Follow the yellow brick road.
Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow, 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 follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick, follow the yellow brick, follow the yellow brick road. You're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. You'll find he is a wizard, a whiz, if ever a whiz there was. If ever a whiz there was, the Wizard of Oz is one because of the wonderful things he does. You're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz.
Okay, so it's been a little while since my last update, but I have finished The Wizard of Oz. I finished it a little while ago, and I'm so happy that this was a more pleasant experience than when I reread Peter Pan in my first episode of the series, because as you know, if you watched that episode, I read Peter Pan back in 2014 and I really liked it, and then I reread it and I didn't feel the same way. It just didn't hold up for me, but this one definitely held up, and I'm so happy because, as I told you guys at the very beginning, I was really worried that I would jump into this and not feel the same, and it would kind of taint my experience reading it as a child, and this was such an important part of my childhood. It was really one of like the first actual like novels that I remember loving. It wasn't just like a random children's series like Junie B. Jones or Flat Stanley. Like those were really important in my childhood, but this was like the first, like I guess like real like full-size novel that was like a piece of literature that I read and fell in love with, and literally reread it a million times, and it was just such an important part of my childhood with the movie and everything as well, and I just really didn't want to come back to it with now owning 2 copies of it and not love it, but I still love it. I have so many things I could say about this book, but before I continue talking about my feelings, I'm going to give you guys another fun fact. The next fun fact is that L. Frank Baum, the author of The Wizard of Oz, he actually framed the pencil that he used when he wrote the first manuscript, the first draft of this book. He actually kept the pencil and he framed it. I'll put the picture up on the screen, because it says, with this pencil I wrote the manuscript of The Emerald City. And it's like, since this was written in like the very early 1900s, and just like look at that pencil, how it looks so different from this, like the tools that we use now. Crazy. And to like think that he actually wrote this entire book by hand with a pencil. Ow. So that is the next fun fact, I guess the third fun fact. So back to my thoughts on this book overall. I thought this book was so endearing. I love the land of Oz. So like whimsical and weird and funny, and it seems like a fun place to go, and it just seems so beautiful and lush and gorgeous, and I just think it would be really, really fun with all these different characters that we get to meet along the way. They're just so much fun, and I love the characters, like the main characters. So I love the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, Dorothy, Dorothy, the Cowardly Lion, Toto. I love them all with like my entire soul. Like they're just so like pure and innocent and cute, and they just love each other so much. And I love the themes of this book, how there's no place like home, how Dorothy the entire book is in this beautiful place that is so much colorful and so much more alive than Kansas is. Kansas is all in gray and it's all drab and dreary, but all she wants is to go home and be with her family. She doesn't care about all of this lushness. She just wants to be home, and I love that message. I also love her relationship and her friendship with the rest of the travelers, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, the Lion, and how they literally just meet and she just takes them on with her without like hesitation at all. She's like, yes, come with me, we can get what we want from the wizard. And then they just like stand by each other the entire journey, and they don't go anywhere alone. Like, if you're gonna be fighting this bad thing, I'm gonna be fighting this bad thing with you. And I just think that's so cute, and I think that this is such like an important book for children to read. And another issue that I had with Peter Pan from the first episode is there was a lot of things that, because it was written so long ago, that a lot of the things just didn't stand up. It wasn't socially acceptable anymore. Like, it had like a few offensive things in it. It didn't it sexualized women a lot, and it didn't hold up necessarily in those aspects. And those are kind of things that you just have to kind of take with classics that are this old. Like, you just have to understand that there are things that just we no longer stand by. But this book didn't have that. Not really at any point in this book that I have to stop reading and be like, oh, that's not good. Like, you would never see that written in a book today. I think the only things that I could think of was they kept saying queer, like, oh, it's just such like a queer place, or what a queer person, but they're not using it in the terms of being gay. I think they're using it in the terms of being weird, so I guess that's not okay. But that didn't like take me out of the story at all, so that's okay. This book, I feel like, really does stand the test of time, and it doesn't, there's no like overly offensive things in it, at least not that I found, which I really appreciated as I was reading. Oh, this isn't that like offensive, which is good. So yeah, I really enjoyed rereading this book, and I'm so happy that I had such a good experience rereading it. And I think it's kind of reinvigorated my love for The Wizard of Oz, because I haven't watched the movie in quite a few years. I know that I still love it, so I'm very excited to watch that either tomorrow or Saturday. And I don't know, I just had such a good time. So it's such like an easy read, and in this time where the world is so crazy, I think this was like exactly the kind of book that I was looking for. It's just so pure and innocent and cute, and I don't know, like it's exactly what I needed it to be. For the duration of me reading this book, I actually forgot what was going on in the world. Like, I'm so happy that I was able to forget about it for however long it took me to actually read this book. And like, my mom came home and was talking about it, or like washed her hands, or she said something about it, and it just like brought me back down to reality, and I was like, oh right. But like, while I was reading this, it was such a safe haven, and I'm so appreciative that this book could offer me that. This book was really fun, and I cannot wait to rewatch the film and compare it for you guys. But I am going to leave you here until I watch the movie and talk about that, and then I will share my last couple of fun facts. And then I'm really happy that this was like a positive experience. So I will see you guys when I decide to watch the movie. Hey guys, so it is the next day. It's now Friday, and I'm currently watching The Wizard of Oz. I have just under a half an hour left in the movie, and I thought that I would just quickly share another fun fact before I go ahead and finish the movie and then talk about it with you guys. So the next Wizard of Oz fun fact is L. Frank Baum actually assembled the very first copy of the book himself. So when the first print of The Wizard of Oz came off of the press in May of 1900, Baum was actually there to compile all the pages. He then gave that copy to his sister, and he wrote on the manuscript, "This dummy was made from sheets I gathered from the press as fast as printed and bound up by hand. It is really the very first book ever made of the story." And I just thought that was so cute, the fact that he was there to bound the first copy of the book and he gave it to his sister. I thought that was just really sweet and cute, so I thought that'd be fun to share with you guys. I'm gonna get back to watching the movie. I've just finished watching The Wizard of Oz, and now it's time for me to compare the movie to the book. I feel like it was like overall like a pretty decent adaptation. Like, it kept the heart of the story, and it kept like all the main points of the story, maybe shuffled around some scenes to go into a different place. I love this movie, obviously, like I've already said, and it's a really good adaptation. So now let's talk like a bit more about like the specific things that were different. So the very beginning of the movie is a bit slower paced than the very beginning of the book. In the book, the very first chapter, she gets swept up in the cyclone. So basically just gives like a quick rundown of like Aunt Em and Uncle Henry and Dorothy, and then like a little bit like a description of like their house in Kansas, and then they're in a cyclone, and the second chapter it opens up her going to Oz. Whereas in the movie it's a bit more slower, more development, more introduction into Dorothy and her home life, and it also adds in the conflict of Miss Gulch, who ends up in Oz in her dream being the Wicked Witch, which is something I want to talk about in a second. But there's like the whole conflict with Miss Gulch and Toto, and how Toto bit her, and then there's that whole conflict where she has to take Toto away, and then Toto runs back home, and so Dorothy and Toto run away, and that's where they meet Mr. Marvel, I think his name is, who ends up being like the Wizard of Oz, and all of that jazz. And then she comes home and everyone's already in the like storm cellar, so she ends up going in the house, and then they get taken away. In the book we experience more obstacles on their way to Oz than we do in the movie. In the movie all they really run into is the Wicked Witch. Comes a few times. She first meets Dorothy in the Munchkin land, and then she meets them again once it's just the Scarecrow and the Tin Man, and then she kind of is like keeping an eye on them and like sending things in their obstacles. She puts the poison in the poppy field and everything like that, so she's the main opposing force in all of this, whereas in the book she doesn't really know of them or doesn't meet them until much later on in the book when they like come to kill her, I think. Whereas in the book she's aware of them the entire time and like is out to get Dorothy. But another difference is in the very beginning of the book, when she's in Munchkin land, she's greeted by a good witch, but it's not Glinda. We also don't get her name, but she's the good witch of the South, I believe. But she's the one that like gives her the slippers and whatnot, and we don't meet Glinda until the very end of the book, because the Wizard of Oz goes up in his balloon, and Dorothy obviously can't get on because she's looking for Toto, which also happens in the movie, and then she has to go find Glinda to get Glinda's help. So that's when she meets Glinda. But I like how in the movie it's like one consistent character instead of it being like all these other characters. That doesn't really affect me. Like I feel like the changes that were made from the book to the movie don't really affect the overall enjoyment or experience of the story. We still get the same things out of it. It's a good escape. It's just fun. It's whimsical. It's magical. It's colorful, and I just really, really love it. I think this movie lends really, really well into a movie format where it's so colorful and vibrant, and it's just really beautiful. Another difference is the way the wizard goes about giving them their things. In the book, it's more like giving them things that look like what they want. So like for the Scarecrow, he like makes like a concoction, like a mixture of something with pins and needles, and puts it in the Scarecrow's head to act as a brain. For the Tin Man, he puts like a silk stuffed heart in his chest to make it like appear like he has a heart. And then for the Lion, he makes him drink this drink and says, you drink this and you will get courage. So that's what he does in the book. But in the movie, the Scarecrow gets a diploma, and then all of a sudden he's smart and has a brain. And then the Tin Man gets like a little like ticking heart thing that's like on a chain or something. I don't know exactly what it is. And then for the Lion, he gets a little like medal. It's a little bit different. I think the last thing that I kind of want to mention in terms of like differences or whatnot with the movie is I like how in the movie Oz is a dream. I typically don't like that trope where like, oh, it was all a dream, nothing ever actually happened. I think it works well in this situation because in the book it actually happened. Oz is a real place. She actually went to Oz, but in the movie she, taps her shoes, says there's no place like home, and then she wakes up in her bed after hitting her head. So she hits her head and then she dreams of Oz, and that is why people that she's met in Kansas end up appearing in the dream as other people. So people who work on her farm end up being the Scarecrow, the Lion, and the Tin Man. Miss Gulch ends up being the Wicked Witch. Mr. Marvel ends up being the Wizard of Oz. I don't know, I like it. I like how they tie in. She's like, and you were there, and you were there, and you were there, and I don't know, I kind of like it. I think it just ties everything in together beautifully, and then you understand why there was so much backstory at the beginning. But yeah, overall, good adaptation. Obviously though, with any adaptation from a book to a movie, it has to take things out or change things to make it fit a movie style a bit better. But overall, I really, really love this movie. It's definitely one of my favorites and always has been. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a huge thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Comment down below if you guys have read or watched The Wizard of Oz and what your thoughts are on it, and also let me know your opinions on any of the fun facts or opinions that I shared in this video. Subscribe if you have not yet already, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!